Hey guys, welcome back to the Mind of Brandon, and welcome back to some more Friday Feminism. As indicated by the title of this video, Feminists. This is how to solve the gender wage gap. Now I know what some of my viewers are thinking. They're thinking, what wage gap? The wage gap is a myth.
It's really more of an earnings gap that has more to do with the fact that, generally speaking, women are not really putting in as much hours as men are, taking more time off, going on more vacations, taking more sick leave, taking more maternity leave.
So it's not like companies are intentionally paying women less because they're women. In fact, there's laws against that. So what do you want us to do about it, feminists? The bottom line is that if women put in as many hours as men do, then they'll make as much money as men do.
I think that's the gist of what some of my viewers were thinking when they saw the title of this video. Suffice it to say, some people think the wage gap isn't even real, and so, talking about how to solve it is kind of a moot point. How do you solve a problem that doesn't exist, is I think what a lot of people are thinking. But it's not the point of today's video to further the debate on that particular topic. Actually, what we're doing today is just kind of proceeding with the assumption that there is a wage gap, and here's how you solve it. Now, the good news for people who don't believe in a wage gap is that the solution will also eliminate any delusions that there's a wage gap when there isn't, if there isn't. And this, of course, is because the solution is a resource-based global economy, a system that doesn't even use money.
Wait, what? That's a terrible idea!
Well, no, not necessarily. Hear me out. What we're talking about here is a system where machines do all the jobs that nobody wants to do. So all the jobs that people are only willing to do if you pay them, right? Jobs like flipping burgers, working checkout line, making pizzas, crappy jobs like that, okay? Keeping in mind that there are some jobs that people would do whether you pay them or not because it's just, their passion and they love doing it. So the idea here with a resource-based global economy is that through the process of automation, everyone all over the world is given access to food, clothing, shelter, medicine, transportation, education, entertainment, plumbing, electricity, all without a price tag because you don't have to pay machines. And when I say everyone gets access to this stuff, I mean everyone, regardless of age, race, gender. And this, of course, has the potential to create a world in which there's no more war, crime, poverty, starvation, slavery, overpopulation, pollution, racism, sexism, nationalism, classism, ageism. Not that I've given you guys all the details as to how it accomplishes all that, and I'm not even the one who came up with the idea. Where I heard about a resource-based global economy from is an organization called the Venus Project, which is currently being run by a woman named Roxanne Meadows, who co-founded the organization.
If you have a society as it is today, and you have few nations and few people controlling most of the Earth's resources, you're going to have war, you're going to have poverty, you're going to have stealing, you're going to have crime. And then you make laws and try and make people ethical and say, don't steal, and you put them in jail and you call them evil if you do that. In the society we're talking about, you produce abundance as quickly as possible, and you make goods and services available to everyone. So you eliminate the need for stealing. So you change what you call human nature. It's really no human nature. You change human behavior by making goods and services available. So you don't have to make laws, don't steal. You don't call them evil because they steal. You get this good and bad, right and wrong from religion. But if you change the environment, you change the way people behave towards one another. We don't have the money to even house people all over the earth, but we have enough resources. That's why we advocate a resource-based economy, not a money-based society. Designing this way and using resources wisely means everybody has a high standard of living.
Coming out here to Venus would be something any budding environmentalist or social advocate would benefit from.
It's like nowhere else you've ever been if you're interested in progress overall for everyone.
The lifestyle we could have is unlike anything that we know of today. People say, well, how can we eliminate the problems that we've had? We've always had problems of war and poverty and anger. That's because we've always had scarcity. The system perpetuates scarcity. And the resource-based economy is to promote abundance as quickly as possible. And if we don't do that, we'll have problems. We could have a fantastic future.
So if you're interested in learning more about the Venus Project and a resource-based global economy, you can, of course, look it up here on YouTube and find a whole bunch of different videos on the subject. You can go to thevenusproject.com for more information. I also recommend looking up lectures from Jacque Fresco. He's actually the guy who originally came up with the idea of a resource-based global economy.
If a woman becomes an engineer, she doesn't earn as much as a male engineer. Did you know that? So I'm just telling you, women are still abused by this country. And even if you tell women that they're equal to men, they don't believe that. And they can be anything they want to be in the future.
Politicians have no knowledge of anything. They're lawyers and businessmen elected to political office who don't know the fundamentals of how people get to be the way they are. That means if you were raised as a baby by the headhunters of the Amazon, you'd be a headhunter. If you never saw anything else, I mean, no movies, never travel. And if I said to you, doesn't it bother you to have 10 shrunken heads? He says, yes, my brother has 20. Is he a bad guy? No, he's reflecting his culture. So I believe if you were brought up as a baby in Nazi Germany, all you see is Heil Hitler, Deutschland über alles, and all the books are burned, you become a Nazi. Is he a bad guy? No. That's all he's been exposed to. So I do not blame people no matter what they are. I even think that a serial killer is made that way by the environment they're reared in. If you're brought up in the Deep South, you're going to speak with a Southern accent. And I say, stop speaking with a Southern accent. Well, that doesn't work. Say no to drugs is really stupid. Whoever proposed that, as long as there's money in drugs, they're going to sell drugs.
I have no doubt that if you were to give people whatever they wanted, there would be less crime, but there would still be crime. People would have affairs, and the husband or the wife would find out and kill the husband or the wife.
Yes.
That would happen. So you
During
would
the
still have crime.
Yes.
But after the transition, nobody would have affairs, no one would get jealous, no one would kill anybody?
I'm about to explain that to you.
Okay.
When I was 21, I worked my way to the South Sea Islands. I want to know what people would be like if they weren't brought up in civilization. When I got to Tuamotu, when I landed there, I brought mirrors and beads. I was going to give it out to the natives to establish friendship. I come as a friend, not to take anything away from them. But they were already in my hut 3 hours after I arrived, giving out my mirrors and beads to one another with a great big grin. Now, I said to them, well, how come you're giving my stuff away? And they said, you've got too many things. I didn't understand that until 3 days later, when the old people pulled in a net full of fish, they threw fish to anyone standing there. They didn't say, you owe me $5, you owe me $7. They just gave you things. And they were completely nude, those people. And I never saw a guy on the island stare at a female body. They were swimming nude ever since they were that high. And when they made love to a female, they had no fetishes. They stroked the whole female. Do you understand? There were no tit men, leg men, ass men. What you've got today, all the damn variations and fetishes, because women and men have been separated. If everybody in America had a nose a foot long, you'd have surgery done. Do you understand me? People would run down the street and say, she's a funny girl. There's no such thing as beauty. If you bring up people to believe in all this artificiality, you damage their lives and make it almost impossible to function.
So, Roxanne, I mean, Jacque is obviously a very passionate speaker and thinker, and you've been working with him for 33 years.
Yes.
What's your role?
Well, I've been working with him and doing everything I can to help this direction, because I really think it's the only viable alternative out there. When I heard about it, it made more sense than anything I'd ever heard of. the activists today are upset about what's going on, and they're a watchdog of this system, but they don't pose any alternatives. And as long as you don't pose any alternatives, it's the same story. So we're not trying to fix this system. We don't think you can fix it. That's doing patchwork. You can't really make this system, the monetary system, just or equitable. They say it's a democracy and you have freedom, but you're really as free as your purchasing power. There really is no democracy. That's a word that they get people to go fight and die for, and to us it really means nothing. We don't see how it means anything in this culture. You don't, you know, when people say we live in a democracy and we're a participatory democracy, and we say, well, did you vote for the space age? Did you vote for the Iraq war? Did you vote for libraries or bridges in any areas? No. You vote for who they put up. And those people...
And they only have two parties, don't they? They have only two parties.
To us, they have one party.
Well, they may have, but they have two different names, don't they? In America, you have the Democrats and the Republicans.
And they represent big business.
And Conservative. And
that's right.
Maybe the Liberal Democrats a little bit.
So this is an entirely different system. And we pose an entirely different social design. We look at what causes the problems and try and design a society that eliminates war, poverty, hunger, crime, and that can be done today, but not within a monetary system.
You know, so all these things are very attractive, and the designs and so on are incredibly attractive for this new world, if you like. But, you know, how do you don't just snap your finger and there's a new world. How do you achieve it?
It would be nice. But first, like anything else, you have to introduce it to the public, like what you're doing. Through all the media that we can. We feel that we'd like to present a major motion picture. Peter Joseph did a tremendous job to introduce this to the whole world.
When I was a young man growing up in New York City, I refused to pledge allegiance to the flag. Of course, I was sent to the principal's office, and he asked me, "Why don't you want to pledge allegiance? Everybody does." I said, everybody once believed the earth was flat, but that doesn't make it so. I explained that America owed everything it has to other cultures and other nations, and that I would rather pledge allegiance to the earth and everyone on it. Needless to say, it wasn't long before I left school entirely, and I set up a lab in my bedroom. There I began to learn about science and nature. I realized then that the universe is governed by laws, and that the human being, along with society itself, was not exempt from these laws. Then came the crash of 1929, which began what we now call the Great Depression. I found it difficult to understand why millions were out of work, homeless, starving, while all the factories were sitting there. The resources were unchanged. It was then that I realized that the rules of the economic game were inherently invalid. Shortly after came World War II, where various nations took turns systematically destroying each other. I later calculated that all the destruction and wasted resources spent on that war could have easily provided for every human need on the planet. Since that time, I have watched humanity set the stage for its own extinction. I have watched as the precious finite resources are perpetually wasted and destroyed in the name of profit and free markets. I have watched the social values of society be reduced into a base artificiality of materialism and mindless consumption. And I have watched as the monetary powers control the political structure of supposedly free societies. I'm 94 years old now, and I'm afraid my disposition is the same as it was 75 years ago. This shit's got to go.
Alright guys, that's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and share it with other people. If you're interested in watching my future videos, please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And I will see you all in the next one. So have a good one, guys, and peace.